Talk about the new reality, right? We can celebrate. Here's the good news. Some parks will partially reopen. Man, this COVID world, a breath of fresh air, I guess, literally will come soon, though. For some Canadians, national parks, as you just saw, some of them will partially reopen to the public June 1st. The Prime Minister announced camping will be off limits, though. Trails and green spaces will be open. So how will physically distanced measures be kept in place? And the other element is, what about the environmental commitments the government is asking from large companies in order to get a bridge loan, financial aid? Let's get the details now. The Environment Minister, Jonathan Wilkinson, joins us from Vancouver. Minister, always good to have you on the program. I hope you and the family are well in this crisis. Look, the weather's getting warmer, finally, and a lot of people want to get out into the parks. Give me a sense of what parks are opening and what parts of them. It sounds pretty contained.
Well, it's a first step. And as you say, I mean, the reason for that is twofold. One is that the provincial health authorities have sort of weighed in when the provinces have started to open their provincial parks. But the second is that as we get into spring and summer, people are going to want to be outside, and we want to ensure that we're trying to give them space to be able to actually be outside while still doing appropriate physical distancing. So we announced today that we will be reopening on a limited basis many of the national parks, not all of them, but many of them, for the use of trails, for the use of picnic facilities, for, in some cases, the use of boat launches. There will also be washrooms and some other limited services provided. But it's so that the Canadians can get out to enjoy nature and do so in a safe manner.
But you can't camp. So if someone says, oh, I want to go on that canoe trip or that hiking trip, no camping?
No camping yet. I mean, certainly we intend to evolve this so long as things go as we expect that they will in early June. We have said no camping until at least June the 21st, but our hope certainly is we will move to the next step, which would be to allow camping and a broader range of activities.
What percentage of national parks are actually opening?
So they will be itemized. They will be up on the Parks Canada website early next week. And it will be a majority of parks. There will be some that will not be opening, like some that are co-managed with Indigenous communities that have indicated they do not want the park reopened, like in Haida Gwaii. There are some in the north where the territorial governments have indicated that they want to ensure that some do not open, or if they do, it's only for territorial residents. But the vast majority of parks will be open on a limited basis, and we're working the mechanics of that right now.
Some parks, and this is not necessarily your purview, but they're under municipal jurisdiction, and people have been getting fines for going into parks. Will the government, the federal government, speak to provinces and municipalities and say, sort of pull back, cut the heavy hand?
Well, that's really a municipal responsibility. What I can tell you is within the national parks, we are certainly going to be watching and working to manage the volume of people that are coming to the park. We will certainly have Parks Canada staff there that will be encouraging people to ensure that they are appropriately physically distancing when they're in the park. And that's as it should be. I mean, the vast majority of Canadians have been very responsible in terms of how they've handled this. And what we're doing here is giving them another opportunity to be able to be out in nature.
You're the Environment Minister, and one of the new things is an aid package, and it's really loans to the oil and gas sector. They need a support package, okay? We saw financing specifically for fisheries today. How do you give fisheries, students, seniors, but why not a bigger package to the oil and gas? I know you've given $1.7 billion. The auto sector got a much bigger bailout in 2009. Why not a larger bailout for them?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, we're concerned about Canadians across the country in all sectors and trying to ensure that we can get them back to work and that they are supported through this time. With respect to the oil and gas sector, there are really two different things. The first was the $1.7 billion package that was really about putting Albertans and Saskatchewanians back to work by remediating environmental liabilities around orphan wells, by implementing methane reductions, which are a critical part of our climate plan. And then there was the announcement of the LEAP facility, which cuts across all sectors that include airlines and retail, oil and gas, everybody else, which is about providing liquidity to corporations, larger corporations, to ensure that they can manage through this.
But I understand that. So this is what. So let's talk about this. The LEAF program, LEEF, that helps large employers. It comes with a string attached, and the string is this: every company to get this loan needs an annual climate-related disclosure report. Why? The purpose of this is to help companies that have a chance of survival survive. They need this loan. It's not even, they have to pay it back. Why attach strings to that? Isn't that like pushing someone who's drowning a little farther under the water?
Well, I don't think so. And I think if you talk to many of the large corporations in the oil and gas sector in Canada, they're either already doing this or they're very much intend to go down this path. I mean, this is a reality in the investment community, but it's also a scientific reality that we need to address the climate issue. It is the looming crisis on the horizon. And certainly in the context of the government of Canada stepping in to ensure that we are there to support companies of all types, it is entirely relevant for us to say that it's important that we're all part of the climate, the solution to the climate change.
I'm not saying it's not important, but you've made it contingent on getting this large employer emergency financing facility through the Canada Development Investment Corporation. If they need a bridge loan, it's not a bailout, it's a bridge loan. Like, if someone's drowning, you don't say, I'll save you, but first you got to learn how to swim. Why not just give them the loan, let them survive this crisis, and then come with that? Why put strings on a different issue when they're struggling to survive and employ people?
Well, I think that, again, you've got to remember this LEAF facility applies to all sectors. It applies to the airlines, the retail community, everybody that's over a certain size. What we have said is Canadians told us in the last election that climate change was extremely important. That has been underlined through the course of this pandemic. We have a looming crisis on the horizon. It's important that we're all pulling in the same direction. Most companies have already started to move in this direction, and I think it's entirely appropriate for us to say we need to work together to do this.
Okay, so if they don't have an environmental plan on that, they won't get the money, straight up. What if it takes them 2 months to do that and they can't survive 2 months?
Well, what we have said is that we require that they will embed climate risks in their disclosure. It's something that the investment community has been calling for a long time, including people like Mark Carney and Tiff Macklin when he was managing the sustainable finance group for the Minister of the Environment and the Minister of Finance. And that they will need to do that on a go-forward basis. So I don't think that's particularly onerous, nor do I think that that's unfair. It's about addressing emerging realities and challenges as we move through this one.
All right, I got to leave it there. Minister Wilkinson, good to have you on the program, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.